Maybe we're talking about boundaries with your mother-in-law for the 8th session. Or maybe I'm not actually your therapist and you're just here to listen to my take on some of these Reddit Am I the A-hole stories. Am I the a-hole for being more successful than my brother-in-law? I, 35 male, have been married to my wife, Carol, 35 female, for 8 years now. She's a doctor and I'm a lawyer. We make well over $500,000 a year together, sometimes even more than that depending on what I make. Well, good for you, honey, okay? Damn. She has 2 younger sisters and a brother who's the youngest of them and is 21 years old. Both of her sisters are in medical school. The older one wants to be a general family doctor and the younger one wants to be a dentist. They're both very smart and hardworking young ladies and everyone is so proud of them. My younger brother-in-law, however, is none of that. All right off the bat, a very ambitious family, an extended family. I don't know how much I want to hit the hornet's nest of overachievers. Listen, I've been ambitious a time or two. I can be very ambitious, but a lot of time there's actually something going on there. When everyone has to be the best or the best, it just tells a story. When he was in school, he was more interested in hanging out with friends and gaming all the time. He's already my favorite. My in-laws tried intervening, but he didn't listen or care about them. He failed school and got horrible grades. Over here, you don't redo a class. If you fail, you just go on with your failed grades. Okay, school's not everything, but okay. My in-laws wanted him to go to college and he tried twice, but nothing worked. His grades were too low to be accepted and he failed a mandatory entrance exam that you have to do to go to college over here twice. He refused to try again and now works minimum wage jobs. Okay, well, let's not be like looking down on minimum wage right off the bat. He works a minimum wage job for 3 to 4 months, gets bored, quits, and a month or two later, the same thing. Okay, that's a little bit of a red flag. He refuses to go to trade school as well, saying it's below him. Below him? Okay. I was over here thinking he probably wouldn't cut it in trade school based on all of this information. Trade school is way harder than some people might think. Right now, he works at the same hospital where my wife works. All right, usually working in a hospital is not something to be turning your nose up at. It's a minimum wage job where he sits with mentally ill patients and people who tried to off themselves. Wow, OP does not sound very compassionate about this kind of work. It sounds like OP is not from the US, but here in the US and a lot of places, that is not a minimum wage job. That's actually a pretty hard job. And it definitely pays at least like a little bit above minimum wage. I'm not saying it's super highly compensated, but not usually minimum wage. Okay. He keeps complaining about how horrible and shitty the job is. And honestly, he puts whatever he makes just on gas to get to the place every day. Well, I kind of doubt that. I feel like I'm getting a lot of red flags. He can't quit though because my father-in-law has had enough of him and has told him he'll not be supporting him any longer. From letting him stay at home rent-free, he has to get his own food and pay his own bills, and my father-in-law told him he needs to start saving to get an apartment on his own as soon as possible. Well, that's perfectly fair. You are kind of responsible for your own costs of living. So just to clarify, because I had to go back and read, it sounds like those are this brother-in-law's parents. My brother-in-law hates me as well because I'm the only son-in-law in the family, and his dad keeps comparing us and how successful I am and how good my life is compared to how shitty his is. Well, that's problem number 1, isn't it? That's a nasty dynamic. I really don't love that. And that no woman would ever be happy with him and that he wouldn't be able to take care of a woman like I'm doing for his sister. Well, that's just blatantly untrue, and he doesn't necessarily have to take care of a woman. I don't know where this is based out of. Like, I've known plenty of people who did this exact kind of a job and did great with it and were in happy relationships, and maybe both partners work. Nothing wrong with that if that's how your relationship works out. I don't support this way of thinking, however, and I disagree with him doing this. Okay, thank goodness for that at least. But my brother-in-law is very jealous of me and my wife and our kids, and he doesn't even try to hide it. Last night they were over at our house and we were telling them about our Christmas plans and that we were taking a week-long vacation to Switzerland for the holidays, between Christmas and New Year's, and a week after that in France and Italy. And my brother-in-law stood up and told my wife to stop rubbing it in his face and said that they get that we are rich, entitled, and told us to shut the I told him to respect my wife and shut up. He told me I don't have a say over him, so I kicked him out. He huffed and puffed, but ended up leaving anyway. Yikes. He might have had his feelings about how much you guys are able to afford. Okay, I get that, but he definitely didn't have to do all that. It's really sad to me that it sounds like this is more about this guy's relationship with his parents, his relationship with OP's in-laws, than it is about his relationship with OP. But damn. My wife thanked me for standing up for her, yeah. And my father-in-law said he had it coming for a while. I don't know about that. Father-in-law sounds like a piece of work. I feel like someone has to stand up to father-in-law to not be so materialistic. And again, like I was saying earlier, 3 daughters being extremely high achievers in a family tells a story. This son, I feel like he's not even a bum or anything, and everybody's treating him like that. Maybe someone needs to stand up to father-in-law. But honestly, even after everything, I do kind of feel bad for him. It must be hell for him watching all his sisters succeed in life and being the only, quote, failure in the family. I can imagine having your father comparing you with a lawyer every day is a thing as well. And he did try to pass that entrance exam, but it was too hard. I feel like the undertone of this, like, career success is not all that is important. It's not all that you can derive your value from. And it sounds like both OP and his father-in-law and his brother-in-law all need like a heavy dose of that reality. Am I the a-hole for being more successful than him? Might be the wrong question. And is there hope left for him? I honestly want to give him one last chance at this. At what? At a relationship? Yeah, I think that's totally fair. He clearly had a lot of pent-up feelings that came out during that night, because he's still like a troubled younger brother to me, and I genuinely don't want him struggling his whole life because of stupid young mistakes. My dad was like him, and we struggled my whole life. Well, there it is, okay? There's the backstory of why OP has his own feelings and biases about this that are shining through to me, which was my biggest motivation to put myself through college, and still motivates me to work very hard now to never be like my dad. Okay. So there's a little bit of projection happening here. I don't even know how much the brother-in-law really is a deadbeat or how much this person is just comparing them to their dad. It's rough because even though your father-in-law's constant comparisons aren't fair, your brother-in-law's reaction isn't justified either. He's an adult and needs to figure things out for himself. You handled the situation fine. Setting a boundary after he disrespected you in your own home was completely reasonable. Yeah, that's true, and it doesn't mean that the relationship has to be over or that it's ruined or anything like that. This is from OP. Thing is, I get it. I was the poor kid once looking at my older, richer cousins. But just like that motivated me to do everything possible to get where I am today, I just don't get why it didn't do the same for him. I just feel like OP has their own things to unpack about money and status and what that means to them. It didn't have to do the same thing for him. Again, there's so many other ways to be skilled or valuable or useful in the world and in your life as a human other than financial success. So I just don't love that undertone that OP's bringing to the comments. But this person says, because he had it too easy, the fact that it's only now that your father-in-law is making him pay his own bills that he's having a tantrum shows that. Or because he had undiagnosed learning issues and hypercritical parents. Yeah, totally fair. Or again, is just good at something different. But at this point, he has to figure out his own shit like all the rest of us. 100%. Have you told him that you also used to have nothing, so if you could do it, he can too? This is OP. He knows all too well. My father-in-law keeps saying that I built myself with no help while they had a full college fund for him. Okay, but again, kids in privileged families still aren't necessarily just good at the college, career, financial track. Like, that is not the only way to have value in the world. That's just driving me nuts. I guess that's kind of like an undertone in our culture, so it's going to be hard for me to see past that in these comments. But okay, so we learn here that this is something the father-in-law keeps saying and something that the OP believes. So it sounds like they kind of all have this attitude around the brother-in-law. I'm just biased. I'm automatically on the side of the deadbeat gamer. Not the a-hole. You're not the a-hole and you're not entitled. You got where you are because you worked for it. You chose to apply yourself and work hard to get good grades and get a high-paying job. You chose wisely. He, on the other hand, is just coasting through life. I don't know if that's fair to say, but okay. And choosing not to apply himself. He chose poorly. Trade school is not below anybody. Totally agree with that. While it does suck that his father is constantly comparing him to you, that's between him and his father. You are doing nothing wrong. He chose this life and doesn't get to get upset or take it out on anybody but himself. You are not an a-hole for being more successful than him, but at the same time, that doesn't make you a better person or of higher value either. Exactly. I'm glad that this person led with that. In all honesty, your father-in-law sounds like a piece of work. That is what I'm saying. I understand that the young man not being able to hold down a job and not doing well in his studies can be frustrating. Reading between the lines, it sounds like he is likely from a well-to-do family too. Your father-in-law shouldn't be comparing him to you, as you are different people on separate journeys. Your brother-in-law may have dyslexia, ADHD, depression, who knows? I guess he could just have a bad work ethic. At the end of the day, if he's treating his wife well, has good morals, etc., that should be enough, and I'm sure in time he will find his path. Totally agree. It sounds like this brother-in-law does not have a wife yet, just to make sure that we're still on the same page, because they said that they were kind of being mean to him about that too. But I agree. I think that that could be like a path that he is on that they know nothing about, and it sounds like wouldn't really value the same way. Additionally, I'm sure that your sister-in-law will not ever have the worry of financial struggle and will have enough to provide well above basic human needs, considering her education and the family being well educated, etc. I think this person is making the mistake I almost did at the beginning of thinking that this is someone married to one of the daughters, but this is their brother. Him lashing out and swearing at you is obviously very inappropriate for sure. Just try to understand how he must feel. Everybody sucks here. Your jobs mean way too much to all of you. Am I the a-hole for not transferring a website after getting fired from the family business? The history is very involved and goes back 13 years, so I'll add some context to try to make the situation as clear as possible. Thank you for that. I met my quote-unquote adopted parents when I was 19 years old, and they really took me in and helped quote raise me as a young adult. So when they decided to start a company 8 years ago, I helped them build it from the ground up, handling all of the technicalities and business side of things like licensing, insurance, marketing, etc. I also built a very extensive website for the company on my own time, as by this point I'd started my own small-scale freelance marketing company as well. Okay, this person sounds very skilled, very able to do the things that it takes to start a business. In the 8 years that followed, the business grew a lot. I got married and had 2 children, so I backed away from freelance work and began working from home solely for the family business. All customer correspondence via phone/email, scheduling appointments and projects, managing licenses and insurance, managing on-site crews and progress, taking payments/receipts/invoicing, and reviewing all project bids for accuracy, as they wanted to keep things old school. They paid me for 3 days a week, but the workload was full-time due to the growth in the business, to where I was often working until 3 or sometimes even 5 a.m., including on my days off, and was always on call, answering phone calls/texts all days and hours. Well, there's your first problem. That is a huge opportunity to set limits with any kind of career that you're working. You know, you need to be able to go back and to negotiate and to say, I either need to be paid more or have fewer responsibilities. You know, figure out how you're gonna set hours. It doesn't sound like this should ever have been happening. My husband had joined the company 6 years ago and eventually was working 12+ hour days, 6 days a week as a foreman and project estimator, which he often had to do tasks for even when he was at home. He was also on call. He would be scheduled for appointments 2 to 3 days a week and sometimes driving 300 miles in one day, other days serving as the lead foreman on projects that were at least 50 miles away. A lot of driving, a lot of responsibility. Okay. All business expenses were covered individually, meaning only personal vehicles and cell phones were used, gas, business insurance, tools, etc. came out of the pocket for us, including all office supplies/marketing subscriptions on my end. On top of that, if any mistakes were made on site, resolving it would be on personal time as well as taken out of our check, even if the mistake was made by a crew member, as the foreman is still considered responsible. Like, you're having to effectively clock out and deal with problems that come up. That's not very fair. Issues come up in any job. Fast forward to 6 months ago, my adopted parents asked me to come in for a meeting, which ended up being to discuss my husband's work performance. Keep in mind, I was his direct manager and took that role very seriously, as I'm the only one that's been legitimately business-minded in all of this. Okay, this is all weird and messy. This is a little bit why you need to be careful, going into family business. What do you mean that you're your husband's direct manager? While he did have some issues in the beginning, he got to a point where he was great at his job but severely overworked. Oof, that is not a pleasant place to be. At some point, they pointed out that my husband would never find another job that would keep him around and have him making what he does, at which point I mentioned that they didn't pay as well as they thought they did. They were offended beyond belief that I would even suggest that and let me know that Friday would be my last day and good luck, quote, finding anyone else who will pay you what we do to stay home with your children. Ooh, wow. It seems like it got a little nasty. Subsequently, my husband would also be done working there after 30 days. Oh, so they just went ahead and fired two of the key people in building this whole business. I did try to extend the time a week or more to be able to train the people replacing me well enough, but they were adamant that I didn't actually do all that much and none of it was hard. Oh, they're about to find out. That's so satisfying when you leave a position where you were undervalued and you're enjoy picking up the pieces when this falls apart. I spent the rest of the week putting together informational data sheets to make the transition as seamless as possible and always helped anytime they needed something in the following weeks, even though they and the whole family have now cut us off entirely outside of business questions. That's really sad, whoever this family is, you were clearly close enough to at a time that you considered them your adopted parents, and now things are just getting nasty for no good reason. The website was something I'd always maintained on my own time and dime as a way to sow into my adopted parents and the company, and it was agreed that I'd continue to maintain it even though I wasn't working there anymore. Well, that's the next problem. What are you doing that? Why would you do that when they're not even talking to you anymore? It's so sad. It makes it feel like OP is kind of desperate to stay in their lives in some way, or maybe OP doesn't want to go through the work of transitioning the website, which I'm sure is not easy. They've now decided to have their oldest son take over marketing / the website, so asked me to transfer it over to him. Oh, I did not expect this to be the direction this went in. Okay. The problem is the website is so complex and really just a beautiful representation of my abilities, and the only one on my portfolio like it. So make another one, babe. After getting let go, I turned my focus back to freelance work, and if I transferred this site from my LLC at this point, it would be a massive hit to my own business. I explained to the owner that I can leave the website up for their son to copy / paste everything over, but he would just need to rebuild on his end as I can't duplicate it. I will also transfer the domain, which itself is valued at more than $1,000, just to make the transition easier for them. Okay, well, if you're willing to transfer the domain, I feel like that's the important part for them, for their business. They are incredibly upset with the idea though, because the son doesn't know how to do all of that, which I understand, and did offer to come teach them / him how to do everything. But of course they don't want to do that because they operate the business out of their home and I'm no longer welcome there. I'm just confused about this falling out. I'm wondering if more happened than is being explained here. I'm not sure how else I could possibly handle this without sacrificing my own freelance efforts and having to start from scratch. I don't want to make things difficult for them and do feel I'm being more than fair by the options I've given as it is, especially considering the way I've been treated throughout the whole ordeal. But I'm still questioning if maybe I need to just transfer it over and accept the loss. So to my Reddit judges, am I the a-hole for not having just gone that route in the first place? I don't know enough about that world, that freelance website building world, to know if there were other options, if there were other ways that you could capture that work, maybe, take a lot of the elements and put it into a new website that is actually yours. But it is so strange, the whole layer of how they're treating you recently. I really want to know what OP would say was the reason for that. What was the reason for the fallout in the first place? Was it over the business? Was it something else that isn't explained here? Let's see what the Redditors think. Not the a-hole. You're being too kind to people who let you go without a second thought. You're offering so much of yourself and your time to people who don't care about you. What you're offering is reasonable and they should be grateful instead of making all these demands. Hopping on this to add that not only are you being too nice, but you shouldn't be doing anything for them. They don't care or value your time or energy. Stop talking to them and focus on getting your own business off the ground. I'll be less nice and yell, stop being a doormat. OP, you've let them exploit you for years. Stop being so nice and have some self-esteem. Yeah, offering in the first place to continue to run the website when they've already basically cut you out is a little bit strange. I wonder if this is attachment related for the OP, where they just don't want to let go of this family that they were once so close to. It does sound like at this point you're doing a lot for them when they aren't really receiving you very well. I'll go even further. OP sounds stuck on stupid. These so-called adoptive parents don't give a shit about her kids, or her husband. She needs to treat them like a bee in the street and ghost them. OP has done 90% more than I ever would have for them. The moment they got shitty and let me go, I would have walked out the door that instant, no staying around and making data sheets or helping out my replacement, / blocked all their asses and not looked back. People need to value their own worth and know when people are shitting all over them. OP needs to keep the website she worked hard to create and let them figure out how to get a new one. Also needs to realize these ingrate users aren't her problem anymore and break away clean. No joke, I would have nuked the site after I got home on the last day. I think that's what I might have done too. If I paid for everything and everything is in my name, then that's my website to do whatever I want with. I would have backed it up for my portfolio. Outside of that, all hosting and domain related stuff would have ended. I worked at a bakery where the owner fought with the employee who maintained their website. The guy hadn't been paid in a couple of weeks. Well, during that time that he was waiting to be paid, when you Googled the name of the bakery, it took you straight to hardcore. Oh my God. That's funny. They never owned the site. You did. You paid for it. You maintained it. It is in your name. They have no ownership to it. So not the a-hole, but it is time to cut the umbilical cord with this adopted family. What are you doing offering to train the next person? What are you doing offering to keep working on the website? Am I the a-hole for losing my temper with my father's wife over her attempts to push a relationship between me and her kids with my father? All right, we got some complicated blended family dynamics coming. I, 17 male, live with my grandma and grandpa and not with my father and his family. Oh, already I feel like that changes a lot. I personally am somebody who had to live with a grandparent and live with different people, and of course there are circumstances where maybe that is necessary, but as a kid I think it really hurts. So already that's gonna impact the relationship OP has with his father. My father has access to me because of a court order, but he chose to let my grandparents raise me when my mom died. That is really heartbreaking. So this kid not only had to deal with grieving their parent, but then losing the other parent. I mean, he literally used the word chose here. I don't know what the situation was with his dad, but it sounds like, at least from OP's perspective, was a choice. I was 6 when the decision was made. That's so young. I was 11 when he took my grandparents to court for visitation that he never used. He'd remarried and his wife wanted me to be in their lives and in the lives of their children. Oh great, so it's not even the dad making the effort here. So I don't need to see him or anything, but phone contact has to be left open and I need to answer some calls from him every month. Situations like this suck for kids. I've seen so many custody and DCF things throughout my line of work, and kids being forced to have contact with a parent that they really don't want that contact with really sucks, especially if the kid is feeling like the parent doesn't care or the parent is pursuing this contact for their own like spiteful reasons that don't have to do with building a relationship with the kid. Such an unfair position to put kids in. He doesn't make much effort to reach out, but his wife always has. She has invited me to have dinner with them, has asked if she could take me to McDonald's, or pushed to be invited over so she can spend time with me with my grandparents present if we felt better about it. I never wanted to spend time with her, and my grandparents communicated it a lot when I was still younger. That's totally fair. I think it should be well within this OP's right to not be interested in reopening that can of worms with his father if he doesn't want anything to do with him after he was basically abandoned. I was 13 when she and my father had their first kid. She wanted me to meet the baby in the hospital, sent over photos, invited me to the house to meet the baby after I didn't show up at the hospital, tried to get sibling photos and hired a photographer, and booked a session for us without me or my grandparents saying yes first. Like, it's one thing, it's nice to try to make an effort to reconnect with estranged family. You know, maybe this woman is kind of viewing OP as her family, as her new husband's son, you know, that's her new stepson, but you also have to respect what people want, and if they do not want a relationship with you, you can never force it. It never works. After she had her first kid, she got way more intense with the attempts to bring me into the fold, and every time she had another kid, it got worse. My grandparents said no more constant calls and texts, I think he means from the stepmother. So she started using my father's phone because he's allowed to call and text as much as he wants. My grandparents went to court, but the judge dismissed it as not a big deal. 2 years ago, my father sued for actual visitation time because his wife wanted him to make sure I spent time with her and the kids. This is so bold. I mean, I don't understand what OP's father and his wife could have been thinking, but to basically use the law against your child because you're not happy with your child's choices is a little bit disturbing. But the judge did listen to what I wanted and refused it. Okay, good. I'm glad there was that small justice. We tried to go back and ask for the calls and texts to slow down and for it to just be from him, but we lost that and that judge didn't care. Last Christmas, I told her that the pushing was pissing me off and wasn't going to change my mind. Totally fair. I told her to leave me alone and let it go. She didn't do that, and I started responding less to my father's texts, like the actual texts that were coming from him, to show how serious I was. But she got way worse a couple of months ago and even tried to pull a surprise visit with the kids. I was out when she first showed up and my grandparents were telling her to leave. When she saw me, she tried to do the introductions between me and the kids, but I told her to leave me alone and to go away. She told me I had siblings now, whether I liked it or not, and we needed to get to know each other, and mentioned how hard she tried to be good to me and how I constantly rejected her when I didn't have a living mom anymore. Wow, despite all of the clear boundaries and, icing out this stepmother, she still has the audacity to bring up your mom as though she's gonna be some kind of replacement. It pissed me off and I lost my temper and yelled at her to F off and leave me alone, and that I don't care or love her or her kids, and I'm not going to be their brother and I won't be her son. Yeah, well, it sounds like that reaction was coming for a while. I told her we're not family and I want nothing to do with them ever. I called her a stupid bee because she didn't take no for an option and because she doesn't know her place in my life is nowhere because she's nothing to me. Okay, pretty harsh, but I kind of get it after all the other boundaries were ignored. There's usually ways to set stronger boundaries in silence or more gracefully than that, but I also don't blame OP. It sounds like it was really building up to this point. She started yelling back, but my grandparents said they'd call the cops on her. They sound like really good grandparents, thankfully. I'm really glad that OP had them. I was inside, so they took over again and they got her to leave. But her texts since that day have been so angry and saying I owe her an apology for losing my like that and taking it out on her. Am I the a-hole? I mean, definitely not the a-hole. If you're 17 and these adults won't stop pushing and pushing, probably reopening something that is kind of like painful to this child, the abandonment from their father after the death of their mother. Like, leave them alone. Like I said, there was probably a nicer way to make that happen, but at the same time, like, at some point when you've set really clear, kind boundaries over and over and people aren't listening, I don't know. Like I said, I think that there are better ways to do it, but I don't blame you if you end up losing your patience. Not the a-hole. You've been asking politely to leave you alone for years. I love how the father genuinely doesn't care to have a relationship with OP, yet lets his wife terrorize him. Yeah, that's some of the worst part for me, is that none of this desperation to be in this person's life is coming from his actual father. Ooh, I think this is a good take. Wife won't let it go because if she did, then she has to admit some hard truths about the man she married and had children with, and she doesn't want to admit them. In the back of her mind, she has to be wondering what would happen to her kids if she died. Would he dump those kids on the grandparents too? Yes, the answer is yes. She probably has some magical thinking going on of if she can fix this, it will fix the husband and he will magically become a kind, loving, responsible parent. And she wasn't insane or stupid for marrying a deadbeat parent incapable of normal human emotions. I wouldn't say that that's definitely what's going on here, but it makes a lot of sense that this wife is trying to somehow redeem the character of her husband by getting this kid back in their lives. Here's a weird take. It is, of course, possible that he let his first son be raised by grandparents because he reminds him too much of his deceased wife. It's not uncommon. It doesn't make his behavior any better, but can explain some of his attitude. There is zero excuse for abandoning a young child who just lost their mother. None. Dad's feelings come second in that situation. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. That was kind of my response to this take here. Yeah, it's possible that that was a part of why he abandoned his kid. He still abandoned his kid. He has never once done a single thing for the sole benefit of OP. What a waste of oxygen. Not the a-hole. Text her back something along the lines of, you need to understand that the man you married has been a deadbeat father to me for most of my life. He abandoned me for years. He didn't use the visitation time he was allowed. He wasn't interested in being my dad or even part of my life really until you started pushing for it. I doubt he even really wants it now. I don't know if he has been telling you a pack of lies your whole relationship, or if this is you desperately trying to convince yourself that the man you married and had children with is a better man than he actually is. Either way, that is your problem to deal with and not mine. I have no interest in trying to fake a relationship with a man who has let me down repeatedly just to make you feel better. And whilst your children are biologically related to me, I do not view them as siblings because we are not a family in any of the ways that actually matter. If Deadbeat is stepping up and being a good father to them, that's great. I hope for their sake it actually lasts this time. I hope nothing happens to you and that he doesn't abandon his responsibilities to them like he did me. But I have no interest in watching him be a dad to them when he wasn't one to me. My grandparents are my family, he is not. And if I don't consider him to be my family, why on earth would I consider his new wife and kids my family? I think you need to reflect on why you have been wasting so much time and energy on harassing a child. I think deep down it's because you know that the man you married was not a good father previously and are trying to reassure yourself that he has changed and won't fail your children the same way. In which case, may I suggest you go to therapy and work on that, and leave me the hell alone. The minute I turn 18, I will be free of the court and will cease all contact with your husband. He's my biological father, but he hasn't been a dad to me for a very long time. If after that point either of you contact me again, I will look into a restraining order and have you charged with harassment. So like I said, good theory about why the wife might be doing that she wants to believe that her new husband is a good person. I think there could be other reasons too. I think she could feel deeply that that's what's morally right, and she could be just like that kind of fixer that's trying to go in and clean up his problems. She could be seeing some of the effects in her husband of having abandoned his kid and becoming estranged from him. I can't imagine that that is actually easy on a parent either. And you'll see parents like numbing out with alcohol and other things to kind of try to forget about how painful that is. So she could be seeing that in her husband and be trying to fix it. And obviously it's never going to work because it's not the dad himself trying to repair that relationship with his kid. And even then, like, you've abandoned your kid for 11 years. That's some hard damage to come back from. Not everybody does. Am I the a-hole for leaving my mom at the hospital to teach her a lesson? My mom constantly guilt trips me into doing things for her. Last week, she called me during work saying she needed a ride home from the hospital after a routine test. I told her I was busy, but she started crying, so I left work early and rushed there. When I arrived, she said she didn't actually need a ride, she just wanted company. I lost it and left her sitting there. Later, she called and said she waited 2 hours before getting in a cab. My brother said I was cruel. I said I was tired of being manipulated. Am I the a-hole for walking away? Sheesh. I feel like this is one I'm gonna have to read a lot of context into. But what I'm reading into it is that this is not the first time that something like this has happened. She started crying, almost like she started crying on demand to get you to go there. That sounds like it could be a sign of some serious emotional manipulation. I don't think that the brother saying OP was cruel necessarily means anything, because sometimes when there are toxic family dynamics, like some siblings are still stuck under the illusion while others are starting to, open their eyes to it. So I don't know. Let's see what the comments say. Not the a-hole. That's on her if she waited 2 hours. Yeah, it's a really good point. Why would she wait 2 hours? If this was a situation where she needed a ride home with someone she knew and not a random cab, that should have been communicated ahead of time. If somehow it really turned into an emergency, then OP, their brother, or whoever is on her paperwork would have been contacted by the hospital. Not the a-hole for leaving. Her waiting 2 hours is yet another manipulation. That's interesting. I think that is possible here. Why wait 2 hours? I'm assuming OP didn't sneak out. Their mother didn't think that they were in the bathroom or something. Why would you wait 2 hours just to be able to say that you waited 2 hours and like gain even more ammunition to play the victim? I don't know. However, you have taught her that if she cries, you'll come running. If you're serious about not being manipulated, you need to figure out what you need to do to not go running the next time she cries about something, and tell your brother he's free to go and give her rides. Those are some great points. Like, if your brother's worried about it, he can take on that responsibility. Yep, nailed it. Pattern recognition plus boundaries. Next time, send a text like, can't leave work, hope you're okay, call a cab/ask brother. Group text, I think they mean with like red receipts, stop the triangulation fast. Yeah, I feel like not the a-hole. Mom needs to learn to communicate upfront with her big girl words. Am I the a-hole for saying I don't care about my sister's rejection-sensitive dysphoria and will be having my wedding the way I want it? RSD. A very familiar term and experience. I know sometimes it might seem like the answer is obvious, but I am honestly asking for the truth because I am getting so much pressure from my family that it is becoming unbearable now. I, male 30, am newly engaged. My fiance, female 30, and I have been together for 2 years, and we both feel ready for the next step. We don't want a big wedding. We both come from huge families, and we don't want to deal with the costs and the headache of planning a huge event. Our plan is to go to City Hall and sign the required papers. It really is easy as that. We would invite my parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, my fiance's father, sister, brother-in-law, and brother, as well as 2 of my friends, since they were the ones who set me and my fiance up when we were in the armed forces. After City Hall, we would all go out for dinner. We don't want any other wedding stuff or any kind of reception. I mean, fair enough, this person knows what they want. When my older sister got married 3 years ago, I ended up being thankful I was stationed in another country and wasn't at home. I was in the Air Force at the time. Wow, that seems weird. It seems like more is going on with this sibling relationship. She had a huge expensive wedding and then took an expensive trip to the United States for her honeymoon. This is normal in our family, but watching the wedding on a live stream was enough for me. I was getting a headache when I was hearing about the planning secondhand. Okay, sometimes people are weird about weddings. I don't know, maybe this OP sister did have a really over-the-top wedding, but it sounds like their idea of an expensive wedding could be something that's not just going to City Hall. And you'd probably have to be there to appreciate all the effort that went into that event. I'm just hearing that OP is coming from a kind of cynical place. Okay. My fiance and I don't want that stress. I thought my family would have, I think they mean no problem with us not having a big wedding or only inviting my parents, sister, and brother-in-law. But my sister got upset because she wanted to be my fiance's maid of honor. We aren't even having a maid of honor / best man or wedding party at all. And even if we were, my fiance would want her own sister to be maid of honor, not my sister. Yeah, that makes sense. That seems like a bold assumption. My sister also thought she would get a special role in the wedding as sister of the groom, which isn't a thing as far as I know. She wants to have a moment where she walks down the aisle alone before my wife does. Wow, okay, your sister is dreaming at this point. I've never seen anything like that. Only the bride or one half of the couple, and sometimes the father, walks down the aisle. Yeah, and you know, sometimes like the wedding party does go down the aisle to get to their places, kind of before the bride comes out, but there's not then like a special sister of the groom. I could almost see her being confused because there's like sometimes a special role for mother of the groom, mother of the bride, but this girl wants to be the star of the show at her brother's wedding and was bold enough to say it. For full disclosure, my sister has ADHD, and with that, she also has something called rejection sensitive dysphoria. She takes rejection really personally, and even though my parents sent her to therapy before, she still takes it hard when she thinks someone has rejected her, even if they haven't really done that. I totally believe all that's true. Like, I think I deal with rejection sensitive dysphoria. I think I have a lot of loved ones who do. That's still your own responsibility to deal with and manage, especially in a case like this where nobody is doing anything wrong. I told her my fiance and I aren't having wedding parties or a wedding where other people have a special role or moment. She feels She feels rejected, and now my parents, brother-in-law, and other people in my family are pressuring me to change my mind. That is wild. That makes it sound like she is very used to everyone around her bending to her will. Everybody is used to bending over backwards to make sure that this person doesn't feel rejected, and that ultimately is a disservice to everyone. It's a disservice to them, the authenticity of their relationship with this sister, and her ability to build her tolerance of the discomfort of feeling slightly rejected. It's okay to feel slightly rejected, and it's okay to have big feelings about it, and you have to figure out how you're going to navigate those big feelings. To at least like some certain extent, you are responsible for being on a continuous journey, working to have your own behaviors and like quirks and things about yourself hurt yourself and others less and less. So you have to work on that. It doesn't mean that everyone else around you has to make sure that you never feel like that. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister and everyone else that I don't care if she feels rejected and I won't change a thing about the wedding? It gets annoying to have everything revolve around my sister's feelings all the damn time. That's so fair. I feel like OP is used to this dynamic, and that's even more troubling. Like, this is a pattern that's built up. I don't think it's wrong for me and my fiance to want our wedding day to be about us. Instead of giving my sister the role of maid of honor / groom sister and letting her be the center of attention like she wants. My parents and my brother-in-law are the worst offenders, and I ended up telling them and everyone else who pressured me that I'm done talking about this and to never bring it up again. Am I the a-hole for this? No, absolutely not. That sounds like it was a strong boundary that really needed to be set. I just want to have my wedding the way my fiance and I want it, but my family has never gotten so upset with me about anything else before, so I wonder if I overstepped. Right off the bat, I'm guessing that that's because you've never really put your foot down about a boundary with this sister and with her getting her way before. And I think that your wedding is a really good place to start being able to practice that, because if there's like toxic behavior happening with your family of origin, you want to start setting the precedent that actually you're gonna set boundaries and you're gonna act in the best interest of the new family that you're forming. This isn't even about her ADHD or RSD. This is about her being entitled and self-absorbed. She is used to getting her way to avoid upsetting her, and now she has turned into someone who wants to make everything about themselves. That's not her ADHD, that's her ego. I'm guessing she didn't make OP's fiance her maid of honor, so it's funny that she expects it for herself. OP, have the non-wedding that you want. It's about you and your fiance, not your sister, your parents, or anyone else. Everyone else is either welcome to join in your plans for your marriage, or they are welcome to stay home. And let them know the conversation is over. The next time someone brings it up, tell them it's not up for discussion. Then leave / send them home / hang up the phone. Every single time. Also, don't be surprised when your sister shows up in a bridesmaid dress. Oh, I didn't even think of that. And depending on how far she's willing to take it, that could be a very real concern. ADHD and RSD are conditions that require extra management by the people who have them. They are not legitimate excuses to make unreasonable demands for someone else's event based on your own wants. I'm actually offended that OP's sister is excusing her entitled AF and unreasonable behavior, as though this is how individuals with ADHD / RSD should be expected to conduct themselves. Behavior like this makes the rest of us who manage our own brain look bad by association. Jesus, RSD is something you work on, not something that means everyone has to give in to you to prove that they, quote, really care about you. I have ADHD. I sometimes get RSD. It sucks, it's hard. It also doesn't mean I get to demand to get my way all the time. Not the a-hole, you need to be firm with your sister. It seems like no one else is willing to. Right, imagine entering the dating world and saying, you can't reject me, I have RSD. I've got ADHD. It's hard sometimes, but it's my problem and I feel bad when it affects anyone else. But I don't get mad at them because I feel bad. That's my problem. My husband has rejection-sensitive dysphoria. I don't think your sister's issues in respect to your wedding were related to RSD, because that's not really how it works. I think your sister may well have RSD, but she's also got a bad case of main character syndrome and needs to be center stage at all times, even when things are not about her. In other words, she's just a self-absorbed times, completely separate from her mental health conditions, right? It cannot possibly help her RSD that the things she asks for are extreme, and that's your parents' fault. That's a really good take too. Like, I'm terrified of rejection and I struggle to ask for anything. And I feel like when you do ask for something, you like want it to be so couched in, if it's okay for you, if you could do it. To feel like you can ask for something huge and expect to not get rejected sounds awful. It was their job to help her learn to deal with rejection in a healthy way, and now she doesn't know the difference between appropriate and inappropriate requests. Yeah, that's such a good point. The world outside of her family is not going to react to her kindly when she makes those demands. They set her up for failure. Okay. Update, we got married. We had the wedding we wanted. On Friday afternoon, we went to City Hall, signed the paperwork, and had a very quick ceremony. We invited my wife's dad, her sister and brother-in-law, her brother and his fiance, and my best friend and his wife. My best friend and his wife were the ones who introduced me to my wife back when my friend, my wife, and I were serving in the armed forces. Okay, sounds like a lot of people missing. That evening, everyone went out to a nearby restaurant for dinner. Everyone took some photos so that we can remember the day, but things were very relaxed. We all wore clothes we already had and we kept everything low-key. My wife and I spent Saturday together and we both have to work today. We decided not to invite my sister, brother-in-law, or parents because of how they were acting. Okay, they got themselves uninvited, it sounds like. The last straw was them trying to say my father-in-law was on their side and wanted us to have a big wedding. He never said that. I actually think he was a tiny bit relieved because my wife's sister got married this year and her brother is getting married next year. My father-in-law doesn't try to control the weddings of his kids. He helps out with errands when he's needed, but he doesn't try to control or change things. I think he was relieved when my wife and I didn't have a big wedding, but he would never say that out loud or comment on his kids having small or big weddings. Okay, I mean, it sounds like there's no evidence as to how the father-in-law feels. I think that OP might be projecting a little, saying that he was relieved about this, but regardless, he also didn't say he was upset about it. Like, when it's someone else's wedding, just let them do whatever the F they want. My sister and everyone else are upset, but I honestly don't care. I don't think it is unreasonable for a couple to have the wedding they want or to have all the attention on them when it's their wedding day. No, of course it's not unreasonable. I can't believe my parents and my brother-in-law are entertaining her on this. If we did have wedding parties, my wife would want her own sister as the maid of honor, not my sister. I don't know where my sister got the idea she would get to walk down the aisle alone with flowers before my wife did, or have a special role as sister of the groom. I don't know why her, my parents, and my brother-in-law think they get to control my wedding. My wife and I are adults, we don't live with any of them, and we have jobs / our own money. I put my foot down that my wife and I had the wedding we wanted, and we will not be having any other wedding-related stuff. We are done. My wife and I are ecstatic about being married, and that's all I care about. I appreciate all the support in my last post. And then I feel like this edit is important context. It says, I have been told it is common in America, the UK, and other places for the wedding party to walk down the aisle. I hadn't heard of it because, as I explained in my post, that isn't done here. Also, even if it was, my sister wouldn't have been part of the wedding party. My wife would have chosen her own sister and her friends, and I would have chosen my friends. It would have looked very strange for my sister to walk down the aisle before my wife did. It's really sad that OP's whole family ended up uninvited from the wedding, but it also sounds like they really did that to themselves. So that must have been just such a hard position to be in, because I was trying to think of how else you might resolve this conflict, but it sounds like nobody is willing to set those boundaries and they're all going to keep pushing you. And I don't know if that would have gone on right up to the wedding day. So I'm just glad that this OP and his wife ended up married and that they loved the wedding they had. It sounds like typically when people talk about like wanting to go straight to town hall, the ceremony of it isn't as important to them, or maybe it just holds a different significance to them. So it sounds like that's kind of the case here. And maybe that could be the foundation of, him healing with his parents. Because I imagine the parents are probably pretty hurt that they got uninvited, but I feel like it's just such a balance to find between setting boundaries that are strong enough but that aren't overly harsh, and sometimes you can't really tell until you're looking back. So either way, OP is married and sister wasn't even there to cause any drama, so thank goodness for that. Would I be the a-hole if I told my in-laws and their kids to stop coming over for Halloween? And their kids, so your partner's siblings? Backstory, husband and I bought our first home together 4 years ago. It's in a suburb where Halloween is thriving, 500 trick-or-treaters and lots of decorated houses. Ooh, my favorite kind of neighborhood. We don't have children, but we will next year because I am now currently 7 months pregnant. Our first year in this house, my in-laws offered to give us their old Halloween decorations. We accepted, and I was so excited to decorate my first home, a milestone I'd been looking forward to since I was young. Little did I know, the day my in-laws came to give us their stuff, they also decided to completely decorate our front porch with it. They wanted it to look the same way that they had always set it up at their house. So I never got to decorate my first house for Halloween. This is where the bitter feelings for the holiday began. Honestly, that sounds like it could have been a miscommunication, but I can imagine that that was really disappointing. Now on to the real issue at hand. My husband also has a brother with 3 young kids. They live about an hour away in more of a country area. They have a few acres of land and no neighbors, which means they don't live in a trick-or-treating area. Oh, I can relate to that. So ever since we moved in 4 years weeks ago, my brother-in-law decided that he wants to come to our house to give his kids the typical Halloween experience. This also leads to my parent-in-laws coming over too, since they live 20 minutes from us and they want to see their grandkids on Halloween. All of this sounds like it could be such a miscommunication. Like, maybe this extended family assumes that they're welcome, or maybe the husband has given them that impression. Clearly not the case for OP. For me, this means that I've been hosting Halloween for the past 4 years. I make everyone dinner because they come to our house right after school. I clean up dinner while they start trick-or-treating. Okay, well, right there seems like the problem. Are we sure that someone else can't be in charge of ordering pizza? Are we sure that the cleaning can't wait until trick-or-treating's over and then everybody does it together? I don't see why OP is making everyone dinner and cleaning it up, interrupting their own Halloween experience. Normal if it were my own kids, but it's not. It's not necessarily normal if it's your own kids either. Like, let's stop normalizing just leaving moms out of all the fun parts of things and like having them be your built-in maid. Instead of interacting with my neighbors and people from the community, I'm having to socialize with my in-laws because they insist on coming over every year. We also hand out candy their way. They always stand in the driveway waiting for kids. I grew up waiting inside for trick-or-treaters, excited for the thrill of not knowing when the doorbell would ring next. But no, we stand in the driveway just like they did. Okay, I mean, I do feel like this person's maybe taking it a little far. I think in a lot of places that's not really how people are doing things anymore. Neighborhoods I've seen have transitioned from expecting the kids to go up and knock on the door of strangers to having the adults stand in the driveway. So I don't think it's that weird. I don't think OP's in-laws were trying to ruin their Halloween. I wonder how much communication has happened here, or if this is all just like stuff OP has been very passive about and is like boiling up over inside. I just feel like I haven't experienced my own Halloween as a homeowner because they have completely taken over the holiday. Next year, I want to let them know that we will not be hosting Halloween. We will have a 10-month-old baby by then. I want to start my own traditions with her, and I also think it will be better if the house is more calm that night instead of having my 3 nephews running around the house. The only thing I'd feel bad about is my brother-in-law's kids not having a place to go trick-or-treating, but then I also feel like his kids aren't my responsibility. My husband disagrees with me. He likes having his family here. So would I be the a-hole if I shut this 4-year-long tradition down? Well, you're the a-hole for not even realizing that you should be taking your husband's perspective into account. He should also be taking your perspective into account, but it's odd to me that OP skipped right over the whole important piece of taking away like this family time, this bonding tradition of celebrating the holiday. OP doesn't sound very flexible, so having these people kind of come and impose their ideas, I'm imagining it's unintentional, but it sounds like it's really agitating for this person. And there's so many options in between like cooking and cleaning for everyone and never voicing what you want for the holiday versus telling everybody that they can't come. Like, where's all that gray area where we could communicate more about what the actual issues are? This person could probably ask their in-laws to bring dinner. They could probably ask them to all meet up at a nearby park or something if it's too stressful having them in the home. There's so many other ways that this Halloween separation could happen, and let's see what the comments say. The only real problem here that I see is that you won't sit there and tell people you're welcome to come over to trick or treat, but I'm not making dinner this year because I'm going to be out with my neighbors. You need to find your spine, especially because you're having a baby of your own. True. It was your house and you allowed this to happen, so now you can tell everybody that we will rotate for Halloween. That's what I said. Get them all to chip in for pizza. Nobody needs a home-cooked meal on Halloween. And why is OP cleaning up while trick-or-treating is happening? Ask everyone to clean up after the event. All right, none of my ideas were original. We're on the same page here. Also, there's no way you can wait indoors for the surprise of trick-or-treaters to ring the bell when you get 500 of them. And you are also socializing with the neighbors. I'm confused. We get a couple hundred, and if we didn't stay outside, we'd have to be staying right by the door the whole time going open shut, open shut, open shut 60 times an hour. Exactly, with that many kids coming by, it's basically a full-on event, not a quick doorbell night. I think those are all great points. Like, unless you were hoping that your house would get skipped by a lot of kids, why would you want to stay indoors? Tell your in-laws that you are going to do it your way and not theirs. Simple as that. You can come, but make sure the kids eat dinner beforehand, or someone can come over early and cook. If you're not trick-or-treating with the kids, we wait inside watching scary movies until the doorbell rings. And whoever makes the kids at the door scream the loudest wins a prize. And if you touch my decorations, you become a decoration, ... Yeah, I love the approach of setting boundaries in kind of like a lighthearted and joking way if it can be effective. Am I the a-hole for removing my card from all utilities and switching it to my partner's payment method when he moved his sister in and held pool parties for his family? Sorry for any typos. I, female 29, am coming here because people in the real world are very divided about my relationship. I've been with my partner, Steven, male 36, for 4 years, and it was the closest I've had to my dream relationship. We were funny with each other, supported each other's dreams and goals, and also showed deference for each other's families. It has been harder for me to show a good face when his mom doesn't like me. I don't want to say that she hates me since there is no tangible reason, no history of openly arguing, no actual conflicts, at least that have been spoken. She just refuses to engage in conversation and occasionally makes faces at her daughter when I'm talking about our plans, twisting her lips and half mouth pouting. I've addressed this with Steve multiple times with very little results. We have got a mother-in-law. Happens every day. It's a tough relationship to navigate, the mother and daughter-in-law one. His family are from out of town and he moved into his late grandmother's house. I didn't know it was a shared space because he told me that it was his place. I accepted his offer to move in together when I took a position that required either long hours driving or relocating. So OP moving in with their boyfriend was kind of built on deceit. That's not good. He said he wouldn't charge me rent, but asked me to pay for utilities. I thought that was more than fair, so I agreed. This was back in July. 1 month later, his sister Debbie, female 37, got kicked out by her now ex-mother-in-law, and Steve asked if I would mind if she moved in. It wasn't my first choice, but I didn't feel it was my place to start something by refusing, so I agreed. She moved out within 2 weeks, partly because I protested her habits, like eating food that I had meal prepped and denying it, giving my bedroom snacks out to her kids, and engaging in fights with her ex that were so bad I couldn't concentrate while she was screaming on the phone. This is why it can really affect the dynamics of a couple to have to live with the in-laws of those families. And I know that that's like more normal in certain other cultures and stuff like that, but when you aren't used to it and you are very used to your life with your partner, it can really throw things off to suddenly have one of their family members also living with you. She came back. Oh, she came back. Okay, so she lived there for less than 2 weeks and then she came back. She came back after a little over a month because their sister-in-law told Steve's brother she would end their marriage if Debbie ever set foot in their house again after they engaged in a bad argument, Debbie against the brother-in-law and then against the sister-in-law for defending the brother-in-law. Oh no. This is maybe just more evidence about what a challenging person Debbie can be. I went to visit my family, and when I came back, Steve had an above-ground pool, which had been filled, and there were lots of water games and a huge inflatable slide to celebrate Steve's niece's birthday. I waited a few days to address this, and he said he would pay for any difference in utilities. Oh, I didn't even think of the utility difference that you're paying. After that, the family held a few post-summer gatherings, and I started to get very uncomfortable because I also had to keep telling her, I don't know who her is, but somebody in the family, to please turn off the lights whenever they left the room. I also told the kids, and Steve got mad at me. I got a bit nervous and kept thinking about this and asked him again and again because the family gatherings kept happening and because he acted irritated and asked me what I wanted because that's the family house and I was acting like I didn't like his family. Oof. You don't want to be accused of not liking your partner's family. He spent a few hundred on food and drink and was broke earlier that month, so I paid for whatever was needed. But I held out on buying groceries because it didn't feel fair, and I told him that. Yeah, it sounds like part of this is like a financial concern. You are footing the bill for all of this. I can see why you wouldn't really like that. After trying to make sense and trying to find ways to get reassurance, I decided to remove my card from the utility accounts and switch it back to his old payment method. Ooh, okay. Without a conversation first. I was so scared after talking to someone who told me I needed to cancel those cards for my own peace of mind. And I did just that. I told him what I did and he was livid and he stopped talking to me. I told him that it was very painful for me, but this originated a huge argument, so I moved out and will stay in a rented room until next month. He said I'm not built to be a part of a partner's family. He is accusing me of being emotionally manipulative and he says my actions are very telling. Nothing I say seems to calm him down. There's so many things that could be going on here. I feel like I just have to hear as much context as I can first. We had talked about marriage and because he hates his job, I'd created an Excel sheet with things that we could do to help him change careers. Very supportive, okay. One of the options was to help him get an interview at a local company. I was coaching him and helping him out, and now he's texting me about that a lot and says that basically this needs to work out, the job, or he will end things. Oh yes, just what you always want your relationship to be based on. Make it so I get this job or you're fired from being my girlfriend. I told one of my friends that I'm both hurt and uncomfortable and don't see a way out of this, and that I want to drop the whole job plan because he yelled at me. She says he will leave me and that will make me look petty and as if I'm willing to ruin his life. I'm getting support from other friends and his brother's wife. I do love him, but right now I feel emotionally squeezed because he doesn't understand that I need to protect my finances. I would love for things to get resolved without a shit show, but now I loathe his sister for her part in this mess and I have no right to expect him to cut her off. Oh my gosh, well, let me say it again. There are usually more than two options. He says my decision to stay away from his family is a way of showing disdain, and he says that he's hurt that I don't value his traditions. I'm kind of an introvert, and I was never told that I was moving into a home that wasn't under his actual control, or that he intended to host frequent parties, and I honestly resent this. Am I the a-hole? Well, one thing that comes to mind that could be happening here is that the two of you, OP and their partner, are just coming from different financial backgrounds. Maybe money means different things to the two of you. Maybe for him, he's kind of like, money is no object. Paying for something is just how you show you care. Why would you not just pay for these extra utilities? Whereas OP is really looking at like, am I getting manipulated? I'm spending a lot of money here. There's obviously so much missing from this. Like, is the boyfriend paying for anything? Is there this like class difference that they're coming to the relationship with? And is the sister just living there indefinitely? That's such a messy dynamic. Hard to say exactly when you need to be able to set that boundary and say you cannot live here anymore, but it does seem like it has to happen eventually based on like the comfort of both partners and like compromising and trying to work things out. Girl, he was setting you up to be the family ATM. You were supposed to pay utilities and he installed a pool without talking to you. If you didn't remove those cards, you would have had no one to blame but yourself. Financially, he was setting you up, and good for you for being smart enough to see it. He is trying to use family as a way to manipulate you into being used. This isn't your family. They aren't your responsibility. At 36, he knew what he was doing. Was he even paying the mortgage? I wouldn't be surprised if the family house was paid in some way that didn't involve him, and you were the one actually supporting the house. What traditions are you not valuing? Being used as a woman? I'm assuming he was referring to some traditions about like accepting family with open arms kind of a thing. If I were in this situation, I feel like I'd just be like, hey, can you start splitting the utilities with me? They're getting really expensive. But it sounds like there are interpersonal dynamics at play here. OP does not really like their in-laws, does not like having them around all the time, and that's a separate conversation too. Would I be the a-hole for getting a hotel room for my spouse and I instead of sleeping on an air mattress while visiting family for the holidays? It's great if you want to stay with family, but if you don't, I'm such a fan of people having full control over where they stay and having that space to retreat to if things are complicated. My husband and I are flying out of state to visit family for the holiday. Their one guest room will already be taken by other visiting family members. They have a very small office that they want us to stay in on an air mattress. So a small room without much space for our luggage, sleeping on an air mattress, and would have to share a hallway bathroom. My husband and I are only in our late 30s, but we are not a fan of the sleeping situation and would much prefer to stay in a nearby hotel. The family members we are visiting expressed that they would prefer us to sleep at their home on the air mattress instead so they can spend more time with us. I of course want to spend more time with them too, and I feel guilty about it, but would be much more comfortable in an actual bed hotel. Would I be the a-hole for refusing the air mattress? Or should husband and I just suck it up and sleep on the air mattress since it's the holidays? What would you do, or what have you done in a similar situation? Okay, well, I thought we were gonna have like complicated family dynamics, but in a loving family, to be honest, I would just suck it up. If the problem is just like the accommodations not being perfect and it's like this special time for your family, family. I personally would suck it up, but you know, everybody's always within their right to say I'd be more comfortable in their own space. And you can always stay really late and then drive over to the hotel. My back gets so wrecked on an air mattress. With how much a desk job already ruins my back, I wouldn't spend my meager PTO making it worse. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Oh, truth about the PTO, I'm not a fan of using my PTO to get crappy sleep. LOL. We can come and stay in a hotel or we can stay in our home. Wow, okay. That's strong. I don't think we have to be that strong in a situation like this where it's all love. It's all just genuinely wanting people to be near each other. Exactly this. Offer to pick up pastries a few mornings on your way to breakfast. Have 1 or 2 breakfasts on your own at hotel. Don't fight or argue or try to change minds. This is what works for us. We're so happy to see you. Looking forward to Aunt Edna's pie and game night, etc., etc. Just gray rocket every time. This is what works for us, then a positive thing you are looking forward to. Yeah, that's a great formula for really holding boundaries. And if that's how OP's feeling, like absolutely they should. I don't think it sounded in the original post like that's how OP's feeling. They're like kind of wondering about the benefits of sleeping over, but if they have made up their mind and it's a matter of holding boundaries, I think that's great advice. Yeah, just use the bad backstory. Tell them you'll be a lot more pleasant to be around if you get a good night's rest every night. This is the thing. You'll see me more if I stay on the air mattress, but you'll like me better if I stay in a hotel. Yeah, these actually are more great examples of setting appropriate boundaries and how you can do it without it having to be like super harsh. You can kind of be kind about it a lot of the time. Like unless that hasn't been working, you can use humor, you can use your personality in it. It doesn't always have to be so cut and dry, although if that is what works for you for whatever reason, that is valid too. Be comfortable. I personally like being able to hide from people. Oh, forgot my meds at the hotel, gotta take them at 9 p.m. Breakfast at 8 a.m. Oh no, don't put yourself out. We'll get something on our way over. Arrive at 11 a.m. Not the a-hole. Yeah, staying in separate accommodations does provide you an easy out whenever you need it. And sometimes the reason you need it can just be that you're very introverted and you need some time to recharge. I didn't see any mention of how long this holiday stay is, so I feel like that makes a difference too. Like if you're talking about a night or two, the benefits could outweigh the costs of being all together with your family, but if you need that separate space, like you're absolutely entitled to book it for yourself and set up those accommodations. Am I the a-hole for refusing to finance my sister's wedding because she is ashamed of my scar? What? So I'm the older sibling. My sister is 3 years younger. We always had the most classic sibling relationship, which means that I would annoy and pick fights with her, but at the same time protect and be there for her. I have to say that M's sister has always had this strange thing for appearances, aesthetics, and all this dumb stuff. Like in every photo we have together, she always looks like she just came out of a photo shoot while I'm normal and don't give an F about appearances. Coming to the point of this post, I have a scar on my right eye. I made it when I was 5 with my best friend. We were challenged to climb up a tree higher than we could. Unfortunately, I fell down, and from that fall, I had the scar all over my right eye. Oh, that must have been so scary as a kid, and so scary for OP's parents. Could you imagine? Fortunately, it didn't damage anything, so my eye is okay. Just the scar remains obvious. It's extremely visible. But until a few weeks ago, it wasn't a problem. Or so I thought. This is crazy. I hate where this is going. See, Em is about to get married to her longtime boyfriend. They've been together since they were 12, so they met as kids. Obviously, I was happy for her, and like I told her, I had pity for the poor guy. Useless to say that I'm joking, and her boyfriend knows this too, since he knows me and knows how I joke. And since fortunately my job is going extremely well, I have a very good salary and investments are paying off well, I decided to help her with the wedding costs with around $30K. Wow, that sounds like a very generous gift to give to your sister for her wedding. I really thought that it wasn't a problem until 2 weeks ago. My sister decided out of the blue to uninvite me from her wedding because according to her, my scar wouldn't look good in photos and she wanted everything to be perfect and without anything strange. I thought it was some kind of joke, or maybe she was nervous for the wedding, so she said something she didn't mean, but after talking with her, I understood she really meant it, and we got into a pretty big argument. I told her that since she thought my scar was so embarrassing, my money would be the same, so I withdrew my money from the wedding, leaving her anxious and frantic to find 30K in 4 weeks. I don't even, like, this trend leaves me speechless of people leaving loved ones out of big celebrations because of appearance. That is disgusting. Like, what are you doing? But the thing that got me is that our parents are on my side completely, and even told me that Em was talking about this for months, but they thought that she wasn't serious. But apparently she is. Em's fiance is obviously on her side. How could you side with that? That's like, he's just blindly siding with his fiance. Now, my scar never created a single problem in my life, and literally no one ever told me anything about it. Yeah, like nobody ever should have. First of all, I feel like in a loving relationship, you actually get to a point where you can't even see things like that. You wouldn't even really process the scar. I can't believe that this sister is thinking about the scar this much and that it's worth this much for her. I promise you, most people are not sitting there thinking anything about a scar someone has on their face. Or I guess I should say like anything disparaging. So Em is the first one to put her foot down about this. And I am too, because why the F should I be ashamed of how I look? I mean, my own wife always told me that due to my scar and big size, I look like one of those Norwegian gods, ha ha ha. I love that OP's sister is like kind of doing something that could slap down his self-esteem, but he's got these other pieces to build it right back up. That's what you need just in your back pocket. It doesn't matter if this person thinks I look weird. I have all of this evidence over here that I look just fine. Obviously, Em is now trying to come up with dumb stuff, like if I could hide my scar, put on some makeup, make photos from a certain angle to not allow you to see the scar so much, but obviously I'm adamant on my choice. So people of Reddit, am I the a-hole? Should I just do what she says, or should I continue like this and be adamant on my choice? And I'm gonna read the edit first. It says, first of all, thank you all for your comments and points of view because it's really helping me through this mess. I just want to clarify a few things that I didn't write in my post, which was a stupid mistake on my part. Okay. First of all, about the main issue, the money. Obviously, because we are so close to the date of Em's marriage, I can't simply take away the money, and all I can do is refuse to pay for the services I agreed to pay for, which the value is all around 30K. Right, you'd have to like transfer those services over to the sister to back out of this. And I did it because I was genuinely happy for my little sister, because I wanted somehow to make her know that I was always on her side with money too. Yeah, sounds like it was like a gift. It was a gesture, which as you can imagine, now I'm rethinking this. And since the final confirmation for all of this is in 2 days, I'm waiting to see how this mess turns out. And then the other thing is about Em's fiance. Unfortunately, his parents died years ago, and the only thing they left him was an enormous amount of debt. So right now it's not like he is swimming in coins and ashes, which is a proverb in my country. That's actually a nice proverb to describe a complicated time. But like I said, I was more than happy to help Em and pay for her special day because I really thought that we were a team and had a special sibling relationship, but apparently we do not. So I'm still in disbelief about all of this because it came out of the blue and is hurting me pretty badly. Like I said, I was for sure not expecting this. I was even ready for their gift to pay off their debts so they could start their married life calmly and without any stress. But now I just feel like an idiot. This is so heartbreaking. OP is clearly very generous and thought that he was very close to his sister. And then to find out that she had these kind of nasty views on your scar, that is so disturbing. I feel so sad that this person experienced that. Definitely does not make you an idiot. You thought the relationship was one thing and then it became clear it was something else. So yes, I was ready to do all this because like I said, we never had any major arguments or fights and we were always there for each other. And that's why this mess is hurting me so much and is really messing me up. I will update in a few days when something new happens or hopefully a solution comes. Again, thank you all. That is so intense. It's not a light thing to say that somebody's appearance is a problem to you. Like, what a terrible thing to express. Even if you did think that somebody had this huge flaw, which I much prefer the perspective of OP's wife, that this is an asset, honey, not a problem. But even if you thought that it was a problem, you'd think you'd do everything in your power to not make them feel bad about it, to not make them feel self-conscious. The fact that the sister's go-to was actually to exclude her brother is so telling, and it's hurtful. This is so extreme, I have a hard time believing it's real. She's really so stupid she thought uninviting her sister from her wedding would go well. Oh, is it the sister. Also, 4 weeks before the wedding, most of that money would have already been spent on flowers, cake, dress, decorations, and venue. These are either prepaid or have deposits. Yeah, I'm not buying it. Okay, so some speculation that the story is not real. I get that, but I also don't really see any reason to believe this isn't real. So if your face doesn't fit her aesthetic, neither does your money. There's only one a-hole in this scenario, possibly two, but you, OP, are neither. Exactly. Stick to your guns, OP. If she actually cared about you being there, she would have approached you months ago and discussed this issue, which, let's be clear, is a stupid issue. She is vapid and selfish to the core, but she didn't. She just uninvited you because you wouldn't look good in pics. Ugh, I feel disgusting like even saying that. Now she wants your money. She can F right off and get married in the courthouse. Use the money to take your wife on an amazing vacation on the same date as your sister's wedding. If she cared, she definitely would have offered actual options before now instead of just uninviting them. I mean, OP would have had the total right to refuse, and there have certainly been plenty of wedding stories about that exact thing, but the fact that she first went to entirely uninviting them instead of asking if they would be willing to wear makeup says a lot. Totally agree. It's wild how she'd prioritize looks over family support. Nobody should be prioritizing someone's appearance over their actual relationship with them. And that is just my opinion there. That's all I got for you today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.